One more thing. Is it Kevin Durant or bust for the Mavericks this summer? And could potentially Ja Morant make his way to Dallas? We'll talk about that and more today. It's Locked On Mavs. One more thing.
I'm here because I have to be.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
That's it. It's me versus the machine. Don't let his lightness take away from his quickness.
You can rest later. You're young.
And then recover here.
Wait. One more thing.
Yeah, you're still locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member covering the Dallas Mavericks for 10 years. It's Dallas Mavericks, your team every day. Thanks for being it every day or making Locked On Mavs your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Joining me today, the one more thinking, Isaac Harris, the great Slightly Biased YouTube channel, Slightly Biased. Gentlemen, we've got a couple of things to get into today. First one, Kevin Durant. There's been a lot of speculation about KD and the Mavericks. I think all three of us, in talking to each of you, we've come full circle in different ways. We've said, okay, I think KD's the target for the Mavs. Okay, I think I'm okay with it. Okay, I don't want this. I'm coming back. Where do you stand, Isaac Harris, with the KD this summer for the Dallas Mavericks? Is it KD or bust?
I don't know if it's KD or bust. But I totally understand them chasing him, and I would be totally fine with going after him. It's just you've kind of committed to this win now thing. There's an obvious connection with him and Kyrie. I'm glad that Kevin Gray finally came around and found out.
All of us just got a random text from him. Like, I'm in on the KD thing. Out of nowhere.
What happened? So shout out to Kevin. He figured out that KD's a good.
You know what? He finally watched some film on KD, right? Like,
he's finally watching basketball again after doing post game shows for ever.
Shout out to Deal.
We love Kevin. But no, I mean, yeah, sure. Like, go after. I mean, I think the thing that's playing in your favor too is it's an expiring contract. He obviously shut down trades at the deadline, so he's showing that he has some power in it too. There's a Nike connection. He has to have some type of relationship with Nico, has it with Kyrie. I mean, the Texas thing, I mean, he was already I've seen some quotes about him, playing at UT coming up and just how much, going back to UT means something. I don't know. There's just a lot of little strings attached to where, I don't know, it feels like maybe he might not be opposed to it. And it doesn't feel like you'd have to empty the whole cupboard to go get a expiring contract 37-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, the moment that the Luka AD trade happened after the initial shock wore off, my ears immediately perked up. I was like, this just feels like a Kevin Durant type of swing is on the horizon for this team that has openly said their window. Well, they say their window is longer, that they're building for the future, but their window realistically is like 2 seasons. So go out and get a guy like Kevin Durant who has the Nike ties. He has all of that stuff working in his favor. And I mean, like you said, I don't think I've seen people give me mock trades and stuff. I'm really interested to see what his trade the trade return for Kevin Durant would be hypothetically, assuming he gets traded. Of course, I think that writing is on the wall. That almost feels like a foregone conclusion.
Oh, his comments the other day were like, "Hey, I didn't ask for that trade. Like that was them." Felt like he felt a certain way about them trying to trade him during the deadline.
Absolutely, and I thought his comments about Golden State was interesting too. It was basically like paraphrasing here, but it wasn't that I didn't want to go to Golden State. It's just I didn't want to get traded in the middle of the season. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because you think about potential suitors for Kevin Durant, and would the Rockets really empty some of their cupboards for that? Like a 36-year-old on the last year of a deal, maybe, if they think that they are that piece away from really contending. But you look around the league and, a lot can happen between now and July. But you look around the league and it's just like the Mavericks have a clear need. Contractually, they can get there, like you said. I mean, Caleb Martin becomes tradable. I hate doing this to a guy who hasn't even played a minute for the Dallas Mavericks yet. But Caleb Martin becomes a guy you can trade. Christie, I mean, hopefully they don't do that, but you can get
the rest of the season. Caleb Martin building up his trade value.
That's right. I really need you back on the court, buddy. You're gonna be the centerpiece of a KD trade. No, but my ears perked up, and I immediately was just like, this feels like they're gonna swing for Kevin Durant.
I think his brother went back in that Nurkic deal to Phoenix, right?
That's true. Yeah, Cody Martin is with the Suns, so there you go. You could reunite him.
He's making $54 million next year.
Yeah, that's difficult.
That's the one that's tough. But maybe in that swing before the financial year turns over, like draft before free agency. Maybe there's that piece of it that they can make work. I don't know. I agree with Isaac. I don't think it's bust for the Dallas Mavericks. Because,
no, it's not bust.
Because I think the team they have right now is good. We just talked about that in the part one of this, that we think this team is very good, at least top 3 in the West, and we haven't even seen it all together. But Kevin Durant does feel like a swing piece for him. And you guys keep saying the Nike connection. No. The Nike, it is the Nike brotherhood apparently now, because the Mavs only have Nike guys now.
It runs deep.
Or former Nike guys. Sorry, with Anta, they have a couple of those.
Well, I think there's also some it made me think of Kevin Hart on All-Star Weekend when Steph Curry was out there on the floor. He went up to Steph and like pulled back his jersey so people could see the Nike logo on the compression shirt. Steph, obviously a face of like Under Armour. It was like a funny kind of little moment. There's also different amounts of like flexibility too. Like I know we've talked about Kyrie having a ton of leverage this summer, but Kyrie being able to opt out and then sign a new contract, it gives them a little bit of flexibility money wise too, because, what if, a certain trade could happen, but it would require Kyrie. Would Kyrie give up a little bit if it meant them being able to bring in Kevin Durant and then form a big 3 of like Kyrie, KD, and AD, while still Kyrie getting a big time contract on top of that? I still think Kyrie's going to get a 2+1 this summer. It kind of lines up with AD's contract too. And then if they do trade for Kevin Durant, I know it takes him to like 39 or whatever, but would it shock you if they're like, hey, we traded for Kevin Durant and we gave him a 2-year contract extension at a crazy amount of number that kind of locks in that big 3 at a number, or locks them in for the next 2 years after next year?
Well, let me say nothing would surprise me at all with this team anymore. But yeah, I mean, that does make some sense to me. Absolutely. And I don't know if it's going to be Kevin Durant. I mean, I could see it 100%. I do 1,000% think Kyrie's staying. I mean, he has a ton of leverage now. His contract's going to be huge, but I think he's staying. Absolutely. And I think they'll do something. I don't know if it's going to be Kevin Durant, but I'm willing to bet you almost anything they make a pretty sizable move in the offseason. It's just, man, can you imagine Kevin Durant? Like, can you imagine telling somebody, hey, a year after the finals, hey, a year from now, your big 3 is going to be Kyrie, AD. You're like, oh, Kevin Durant. Someone's missing.
Can I give you the dark horse candidate though? If it's not KD,
oh, I'm ready.
Let's hear it.
You're not ready for it because we haven't mentioned their name at all. It's Jaylen Brown.
Ooh.
Let's say
the Finals MVP, Eastern Conference Finals MVP,
the best player in Boston.
The best player in Boston.
So, just give me a second. Jason Kidd already said, "Hey, he's the best player in the Celtics." All right. You know who that probably meant something to? Jaylen Brown. You know who probably doesn't want to pay an ungodly amount of money? Whoever buys this Boston Celtics team. All right. This new ownership group, whatever. What if they pull a Dumont and they say, hey, we're going to buy the team and then trade one of the best players? And
pull a Dumont.
Like Tatum is
pull a Dumont is really funny.
Tatum is like clearly the guy that, is the kind of the face and the young star and everything. And what if they opt? Jaylen Brown's contract is insane. It is. All right. I mean, it gets over $60 million and all the different stuff. What if they opt to keep pieces around Tatum instead of the duo? What if it's a Jaylen Brown force thing and it's like Jaylen Brown after this season? We've seen some like feathers ruffled with Brown and everything over the past year. They won the title, and all of that, but we also had Team USA, all the random stuff with that. But what if Jaylen Brown's like, dude, even if they do win a title, I don't know if I like Boston's like, it's fun winning titles, but I don't know if I want to just be in Tatum's shadow this whole time in Boston, because they're the ages are kind of similar. So he's always going to be in the shadow of Tatum. There's nobody that's like kind of aging out and ahead of him. And who has a really good relationship with Kyrie Irving? Jaylen Brown. They have a great relationship. He hates Nike too.
I was going to say, does Nike care about ethics?
Obviously Kyrie's, stuff and everything. That's the dark horse. I'm throwing it out now that it's a Shams. Hey, Jaylen Brown requested a trade this summer, or there's rumblings he's really eyeing Dallas. and all of that.
It's the next like thief in the night trade.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, the Nike thing is huge to me. I think that
Riley's about to shoot everything down.
He's like hugely against Nike and hates everything that they're a part of and has big beef.
So
with
is
them.
Kyrie.
Well, Nico's not there anymore. I mean, Nico could say, "Hey, I wasn't here for."
I didn't like what they were doing either.
I think I actually been thinking that could be a big sleeping giant story. The NBA is if the Celtics, let's say they lose in round 2 to the Knicks or something, and all of a sudden it's like, man, this team is, like Isaac was saying, this team is really expensive. And not only that, but kind of old. Like outside of Tatum and Brown, like we're not a super young team really, and we're just uber expensive. My thing though, I would say that seems more like a Brooklyn Nets type of maneuver. Like Jaylen Brown, I want to go be the guy. I don't want to go be third fiddle on the Dallas Mavericks if I'm second fiddle on the Celtics. Like I'd rather go be.
Kyrie could convince him that he's the first one though.
True,
right?
yeah, that's true.
I think Kyrie could do that.
They could pitch to him like, "Hey, you're the number one guy."
AD and I just support you. That's what we're here for.
David, he's like, "No, you're the fourth guy. Don't worry about it. You're good. You're good."
Spencer's like, "Hey, all right. So Bitcoin, have you invested?"
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by DoorDash. DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every player that drops 50 or more in a game, you score huge deals the next day on Dash Pass. It's simple. When a player scores 50 points or more in a game during the 2024-25 season, whether it's for your team or against your team, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. There's all kinds of ways you can take advantage of the deal, fueling your watch parties. So if you're getting a bunch of people together to watch potentially a fan favorite player play against your team that got traded recently, you can have a watch party and you can plan for that. You can get DoorDash delivered right to you, snacks, meals, discounts, whatever you want with that. If a player scores 50 the night before, you can take advantage of that deal. Then sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off and order the next day, up to $10 off. Use the promo code NBA50. NBA, then the number 5, the number 0, from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders. On participating merchants must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash.com to learn more. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by FanDuel. The game tips off. NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, gentlemen. We've got some odds going here. We've got Mavs Lakers on the 25th. That's the big game people are talking about.
Let's go.
Lakers by 7. Anybody willing to take those odds?
What is that, next week? That's next week. Wow.
Yeah, the 25th. It's like in 5 days.
Are we going to be on the court at that point in time? I really don't know.
Depends. It really depends. We're fans of the Ringer, and the Ringer has Ringer specials right now on FanDuel to make the Western Conference playoffs. Clippers minus 450, Timberwolves minus 420, Warriors minus 132, Mavericks plus 126, Suns plus 310, Kings plus 320. You guys taking any of those?
No.
The Mavs, you want to take the Mavs plus 126?
Sure. Yeah, give it to me.
You take that one. Right now, if you put down $5 and you win, if the Mavs make the playoffs on that one, you get $150 in bonus bets to join today. Go to FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. At your shot at $150 in bonus bets to make every moment more. Official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Jaylen Brown's 28.
The contract is nuts.
So he's, 3 years younger than AD. Maybe the pitch of like, hey, you want to be the guy type of thing of like, hey, by the time you're 31, I mean, we're looking at AD and Kyrie being mid 30s to late 30s. It's kind of like your team at that point. Like you're for sure.
He just won a title with 38-year-old Al Horford at starting
center.
Guys.
Trying.
I mean, if you listen to any Celtics fan talk about their team, they're kind of at this, Jaylen Brown's kind of, it's kind of reminiscent of a couple years ago when we were like, what's going on with Jaylen Brown? Like, or should we be concerned? Like there's I've heard rumblings from even the Celtics aficionado Bill Simmons on the Bill Simmons podcast.
He's never been wrong about a trade ever.
True.
And here's my thing. Like if they did keep more of their pieces around Tatum and they decide to offload Jaylen Brown, I'm willing to give up pretty much anything and everything to get Jaylen Brown.
Yeah. Especially, I mean, you're still in your window, and he actually lengthens your window a little bit. He's 28.
Yeah. So
That's interesting.
I mean, I'm in on that. At this
You're hesitant.
point,
You're hesitant slightly.
I don't. If Jaylen Brown were made available, I don't know if the Mavericks offer is moving the Celtics much.
We're doing this. We're doing that.
Yeah, but
after what we just saw,
I guess there's a scenario where Jaylen Brown's like, "Hey, trade me to the Mavs."
Nico's up in Boston at a Dunkin' Donuts.
Well, that asking
with their GM,
Brad Stevens, him and Brad Stevens.
He's like, Brad, here's a jelly filled. What do you think?
In this scenario, would it be
America
Brad
runs on Dunkin'?
Yeah, true, they do. I love me some Dunkin' Donuts. But no,
I brought Ben Affleck in.
It's just that Super Bowl commercial that just everybody's piling in.
That does raise the question is, we'll find out a little bit this summer. Are teams and agents looking at the Mavericks and they're like, I don't know about that one. Or are they going to be like, oh, hey, I like Nico. I like Kyrie. Like, I'll go play there. I don't care.
Or like, this is an opportunity for us to fill this power vacuum, basically.
Right. Like there's a skeletons of a good team here.
The one thing about like having one guy that's in charge of everything, and that's Nico Harrison now, is that, yeah, he decides everything. But also he can be, if he is swung in your favor on something, then you're set. You're Kyrie right now. You're set. He's got the leverage right now. He's set on him. If you're an agent and you can convince Nico Harrison that Jaylen Brown should be your guy, like he got convinced on AD that he should be your guy and traded goddamn Luka Doncic for him. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like he got set on him and just went out and did that. If you can convince Nico on something, then he'll go out and do it. And all of a sudden, then you're in a prime position as a player.
But even to like Dallas's package that they could offer, like I just don't. I mean, I could just be like really biased in this, but like if you're calling and saying like, hey, we have a Dereck Lively, we have a young guy and a Max Christie that's like, hey, similar to Jaylen Brown. You're trying to pitch like, and we have some draft. We have 3 first-round picks.
I know,
a couple swaps in there. Like
that'd
that's
be this summer.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know about that.
From the Mavs or like from the Celtics
Mavs
taking
side,
it?
That feels kind of nuts to me.
So they do have the package. They do.
Yeah, I was thinking in my brain like a PJ Gafford, Naji, like.
Oh, okay.
You got to get up to almost $60 million, $53 million. I mean, that's
less than KD.
That is less than KD, but the KD one I could see you throwing in like 3, 4 like solid role guys.
Which number is less, Isaac?
And the Suns be like, yeah, we'll take that, I guess, for a 36-year-old.
Yeah. You don't have to add as much value to it.
Anyway, sorry to derail on Jaylen Brown.
That's an interesting one. I had not thought about that, and then it does make you think like the Celtics situation could be a brewing situation
until they win another title, and we're like,
true, yeah.
I hate this.
Well, they win a title, and he's like, my work here is done. Job's finished. Like Kobe said, job's not finished. Job is finished now.
What is it? If the new owner comes in and is like, how much money is this? These two guys are making $100 million each?
We don't even own this building. Like, there's a subway under it.
Hey, Luka. No, I'll pay Jaylen Brown $64 million.
Yeah.
$67 million. Oh, yeah. $65 million in 28-29.
Could I give you a more realistic target, though?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Like, how much of an upgrade over PJ is Larry Markkinen?
This year?
Just like moving forward, like this offseason.
If you're taking money wise into account, I think I'd rather have PJ.
Yeah, the Lowry contract is. It's funny how the NBA works. It's just like 1 year where Lowry's on a horrible Utah Jazz team that was horrible from the start of the season.
But they're horrible last year too.
I know, but they've at least the last couple of years been somewhat competitive to start the year and then kind of tailed off. But this year they were just terrible from the jump. 1 year and you go from the Thunder should trade everything they have for Larry Markkinen to I don't know if I'd trade PJ Washington but if
I'm getting PJ at what 15,
true, yeah,
you're or Lowry at 46 next year.
I mean, you really got to.
Oh my God, is he really 46?
Yeah, like that's the other thing too.
$46 million, not years.
Yeah.
46-year contract.
46 years old.
I mean, look, teams this year, look how desperate some of them were to move off contracts because of the cap rules and stuff like that. Like, if you're going to make a swing for another guy like that, with that much of that big of a price tag, it has to be like an ultimate ceiling raiser like Kevin Durant.
Also, you do Larry Markkinen. The starting lineup would be Lively, AD, and Larry Markkinen.
I mean, that would be
Markkinen's played the 3 before.
That's a huge lineup though.
That would be interesting.
That's why I throw it out there. One, I'm not saying that I would do that. When I'm thinking about people that I could see realistically getting traded this offseason, besides KD, I think Markkanen is like a key guy that I could see get moved. And you kind of see the like framework if it's Dallas as far as like the fit of like, hey, we want to build this like super big lineup. Lowry's played the three before. He's an excellent shooter. We want shooters around him. And like they try to convince. But I'm with you. Like PJ's on this trajectory. And he's going to, I mean, he only has one more year after this year. He's going to have a big contract after that. I don't know how big, but I'm down for keeping PJ. I wouldn't say that I would for sure do that.
The press conference, if they get Lowry Markkanen, would be, this team should have drafted him back there. We saw the comparison to a certain big German. Like they're going to like slowly reference that.
I can tell you who would ask that too. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Maxey? Remember they wouldn't include Maxey in a sign and trade? Remember that whole debacle?
Yeah, I do.
Oh my gosh.
No, the PJ thing is interesting too, because $14 million next year. I wonder what the yearly salary for PJ starts with. What number that starts with?
That extension number. There's no option on the end of that either. So it's just like you got to get that extension done before that hits free agency.
You would think that it pretty easily gets into the 20s.
Oh, yeah.
You think 30s? No chance, right?
I don't know. I need to compare some other contracts and ages and stuff. Do y'all have any other names besides Zion?
I mean, the Ja Morant one that we were talking about at the beginning. This got brought up because the Locked On NBA West squad group got together. We started talking about the CBA. We started talking about can the Grizzlies and can the Thunder, these small market teams, keep all their guys together? Because with the CBA, it just becomes so hard to be a second apron team. And we were like, all right, well, if the Grizzlies have to get rid of somebody, and both Joe Mullinax of the Locked On Grizzlies and Matt Moore, hated by Mavs fans, but knows the NBA and is also a Grizzlies fan, said, I think it might be Ja. And then
over Bane.
Yes, and Jaren Jackson. And then Howard Beck comes out with a quote that says, I'm constantly checking in with the executives around the trade deadline about like who's the next wave of stars that are going to get dealt. And somebody out of the blue said, keep an eye on Ja Morant this summer. Of course, Grizzlies GM Zach Kleiman comes out and says, I can't blame other executives for fantasizing about us trading Ja, but it's just that fantasy. We are not trading Ja. Continue to underestimate Ja. This team, this city, we'll let our performance on the floor speak for itself. That sounds like a GM that really needs to convince a star player that they're not going to trade him so that he can stay locked in and not like throw a tantrum and like demand a trade right away. By the way, that coming out like that strong on it actually makes me think he's going to trade him more.
So I view the Ja situation similar to like the Trey situation where it's like, I think we really underestimate a smaller like basketball market. I mean, Atlanta's a huge market, don't get me wrong, but like on the basketball side of things, like Memphis obviously is like a big city, but they're a small market team. Having a mega star like Ja Morant is just exactly that. He's a super duper star. Having that guy on your team puts you in a different conversation that smaller market teams are typically not in. And I feel like that's a difficult thing for teams to give up on. And that's where I'm at with Ja. But it is interesting if you talk about, okay, salary teams are now like looking at their salary cap table and they're like, oh my God, we're paying all these three guys combined $120, $130, $140 million. And Ja Morant, the last couple seasons, he's at 32 games this year, 9 games last year. Obviously, we know how crazy that was, but he's played over 65 games once in his career. Now, granted, you had 2 shortened seasons mixed in there, but I guess I could see it. But
do you know a team that could take a star player that was disgruntled and missed a bunch of time for stuff other than injuries and could bring him in and could all of a sudden make him rehabilitate his career?
Brooklyn. These guys just scream Brooklyn to me. All of the younger under 30 guys.
Ja Morant, Jaylen, they're all going to Brooklyn.
Yeah, I just look at a Brooklyn team that's like, oh, we want a star. We have 18 draft picks, so.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
and, I mean, Ja's a Nike guy, and now we have the Nike Brotherhood of Friends over here with the Dallas Mavericks.
His new shoes are supposed to be incredible. I've heard nothing but good things about him. Ooh. Surprisingly,
I like Ja a lot. I think he's super fun to watch too, especially when he's healthy. The health thing is just like hard to just get past. It feels like he's out all random times, and he just don't. But I do think that at some point they're going to have those conversations of they just can't pay everybody, especially a smaller market. I don't think they're going to, unless they start making conference finals and finals appearances. I don't know if we're going to see this team going to a lot in the tax and stuff. And they're so really good at drafting too. So for Dallas, I mean, I could see Nico taking a swing at it, but you're probably taking a swing at it sooner rather than like later. And you're kind of committing to Kyrie and stuff right now. I don't like Ja and Kyrie together. So
I just can't close my eyes. I just can't close my eyes and see it.
The Ja Morant thing is wild. This is obviously a different GM regime now, but the Ja Morant thing is wild because it's like, what if we got Dennis Smith Jr. this time, but it worked?
But he's way better.
Yeah,
right, but it worked.
I just the injury stuff is scary, especially considering I don't even like putting this out there, but no, I'm not even going to say it. We've been worried about Ja Morant's potential injury risk for a while.
Yeah.
It feels like we haven't even gotten there yet. Like these are all kind of weird injuries.
Are you guys ready to talk about landing mechanics again?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. It's just Russian roulette with him and AD.
Yeah, seriously.
Man. Yeah, the Ja Morant thing is wild, but there's
feels like
some tea leaves, I guess, flying in the wind.
Feels like a Houston Brooklyn move.
Yeah,
gosh, John Dillon Brooks again.
Houston would make this just speaks to the NBA how crazy it is too. Is we talk about all these teams like Isaac said. If the Grizzlies make the conference finals or even the finals this year, you throw all those conversations away. If the Celtics win the finals again, throw all those conversations away. Like it all really depends on what team flames out. I mean, look, if the Bucks flame out in round one, what conversation are we having in the summer?
I mean,
well, teams don't really trade their
those
young stars,
especially after they make the finals, right?
I know. I knew I was setting myself up for that. But we have to remember this is an unprecedented situation that we just experienced.
But now the precedent has been set, though.
Yeah, but I don't know how many people are. I don't know how many people are seeing what happened in Dallas. Like, you know what?
A lot of people are saying good things about that. I should do the same thing as
the Spurs are like, should we consider like the Wemby stuff?
It is a copycat league, though. Like,
True.
Are we all in agreement? No on Embiid.
Oh God!
To do what?
I'm just making sure. God, I'm just calm down.
I mean, can you imagine trying to sell the fans on that?
Oh my God! Hey guys, what if we got Porzingis, but he was bigger and more injury prone?
We'd have another protest.
If we just, I would be leading the charge on that protest.
Can we do it in the medical district instead of the AC?
If everything Nico has said is true for the front office, and these were the reasons they traded Luka, I'd have to imagine he hates Joel Embiid. I just have to imagine.
Oh yeah. Oh, and we can go back to Ja Morant and talk about culture fit.
Right, but I mean, I think Embiid has the same sort of. This guy doesn't take this seriously. Like this guy out of shape. Like all of those different things.
What would be more conflicting for Mavs fans, Booker or Trae Young, in a Mavs jersey?
Booker.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think Trae Young would just be another one. Like, how do you look your fan base in the eye and say, remember all those reasons we traded away Luka? Well, let me explain to you guys why Trae Young's going to work on this team.
Hey guys, I think all of you guys just go ahead and clear out your Twitter. I think it's just probably easier to do
about
that.
Booker too. I mean, either of them.
Searching for tweets.
Oh man,
Booker's Nike. So
Booker again to me, and I hate to just continuously bang this drum, but Brooklyn, Houston. I guess if he gets traded,
who else are you putting on Brooklyn? You got
Ja
Ja Morant, Devin Booker, and Jaylen Brown. That's a good team.
Houston showed their hand. They said we're trading for all of Phoenix's picks last summer, and we're waiting. We're waiting for them to blow it up. And the idea was Kevin Durant, but I guarantee you they are.
Sean Marks is like, I might miss on players, but heck, I'm gonna get these draft picks, and it's gonna be an awesome move.
Yeah, it's gonna be sick, and we're just gonna be in trade talks forever. Like everyone's gonna be like Brooklyn.
But I do think Dallas is gonna swing for something this offseason. I think number one goal is locking in Kyrie for at least a couple 2 to 3 year contracts, something like that, or longer. I don't know. But then I think you're looking at some of these contracts you're piecing together at that point. You have some more expirings. You have another draft pick unlocked. There's a lot of different options. You have your own pick in this draft in 2025. There's just a lot of different options on the table for Dallas, but it really feels like it's almost a lock that they're going to be swinging for something this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. I I would feel so confident in saying that.
Can we do a little trade therapy session? It's been about 3 weeks since the trade. Just general check-in on you as a person, slightly.
I mean, I don't know. It doesn't. I don't have the same excitement when I think about them, and I don't. Obviously, a lot of that's because of the trade, but I also think some of that is just the injuries have completely and totally derailed the team to the point where it's just like it's hard to get excited for a team you know is at 20% strength.
The team is like an abstract concept right now.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I mean, I'll never. I don't know if I'll ever get over the trade necessarily. Like it'll always be a what if, no matter what happens. Like unless the Mavs rattle off 3 or 4 straight championships, and it's like, okay, I guess those things are true. But even if they win 1, you always ask like, how many would they have won with Luka? If they win 0, it's like, I mean, how many championships could Luka have won there? Like it'll always be that thing in the back of your mind. But you know, I'm ready to watch basketball. I got the Lakers game up here off to the side, watching Luka and the Lakers. It still feels unbelievable, and I don't know if it'll ever make sense. But you know, I'm at the point where it's just fans are going to react how they want to react. Everybody has right to react in any way that they see fit, and you know, that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I've been watching Love Is Blind. And it's been a pretty good start to the new season, The Bachelor. Just trying to avoid it all. I mean, I have been watching those shows, but yeah, it has been kind of weird, you know, 3 weeks later, especially from like, you know, a content producer type of person who covers a team. It's like, you know, you really can't do anything right now. You know, you talk about the trade, you get flooded with people. It's like, move on. We want to talk about the Mavs. We want to, you know, like, this trade is done. There's some, you know, there's good guys on the team, all this stuff. You get yelled at for that. If you talk about the new guys, it's like, hey, Mavs suck. We've all left. Who are you talking to? And it's just like, well, I don't even know. Like, what are we supposed to do right now? And I think one thing that it did, that has, you know, 3 weeks later is basketball still going to go on in Dallas, and there's still going to be Mavs fan watching the Mavs. Like, yeah. You know, that one half gave you a glimpse of they were shutting things down in the arena for sure, and the shirts and the signs and all the stuff. But that arena, there were thousands of people going absolutely insane bonkers when AD was saying, I'm here in those moments and all the stuff. Just the sheer amount of people who have, you know, from Twitter to YouTube comments to DMs and getting like legitimately mad at just our glimpse of our show of like, move on. Like, you know, we want to talk about the Mavs. We want to talk about, you know, this team, like the trade. Like we're tired of like just living in this like mud and just like in the negative, you know, all this stuff. And it's like, okay, like, and I get that. But there's still a lot of people too. Like, I'm always going to be like, there's something new, like, that pops up that just makes this trade somehow feel worse all the time. Somebody says something, there's something, you know, that happens, or some report that comes out, and it's like, this sucks. It reminds me again how mad this thing sucks.
You know what the thing was that for me the other day?
What?
That mural that they put up in LA where it's Luka and Kobe, that time that Kobe came to the game, and they put Luka in a Lakers jersey instead of a Mavericks jersey, and you're just like, oh, like that brought it all back up to me. It's just like how frustrating it is to see like they're just gonna claim him as his own, and like if he wins a title with the Lakers, he will be remembered as a Laker before he'll be remembered as a Maverick.
Yeah, for sure,
crazy.
And I feel like we've gotten asked a lot on Q&As on our subtext or in different things of like, oh man, Luka's gonna come. I just don't hold your breath that Luka's gonna come back here. Like I'm not. I feel like there's a weird amount of fans that's like holding out hope for that, and I'm just like, guys, I don't care if they like clean house. I don't think that that's really happening. So
maybe there's a world where he's 38 and it's like, oh, I'll finish my career in Dallas. I can't imagine Luka is 30, 29, 28 years old and decides, yeah, I'll go back to Dallas. Like that would be almost as shocking as the trade, in my opinion.
Hear me out. Head coach Igor Kokoschko.
Boban,
player development.
Marco's back.
Goran
Analysts
Dragic,
on the team.
top assistant coach. like they'll bring in
The new
all new
owners.
trainers. Everybody's like,
The new owners, like, no matter what, the only goal I have is Luka Doncic returning to this team.
the Adelsons are like, we've lost millions on this. We need to get him back.
His talk is the new owner.
Is talk
I'd go in with his talk.
the
Why
director
didn't we
of
sign
analytics.
Boban over Moses Brown? Like, if we're gonna, I mean, come on, like Nerlens
They
Noel's
don't need
out
him
there.
anymore. They don't need Luka's friend.
Oh,
Oh
No,
my
but
gosh.
I want to say too is my thing about the whole Vegas thing is it's like, don't underestimate just how much people love sports in Dallas, Texas. Like, lost in all this is the fact that Dallas, Texas is the 4th biggest city in the country, and it's a sports crazy city. Like, people love sports here. I know it's a football state, and it always will be. I remember there was that stretch in the early 2010s where the Rangers were like, no, this is a baseball town. Actually, it's like, no, it's really not. But I respect what you got going on here.
maybe
Arlington is.
Yeah, true. Maybe
not
they're
even
talking about-
that.
I was about to say it'd always be a football.
The Cowboys
state,
were
but
like, now we are here.
people love sports, man. Like I have family members who have season tickets to the Stars, and they don't even like. They're really not even hockey fans. It's just like it's a cool thing to be at, and I mean they root for them and support them, but it's just people love their sports here, and there's going to be 20,000 people in the arena.
Kyrie said something on the Malika Andrews interview on ESPN that I thought was interesting about the trade. He said, quote, hopefully we can tailor back on some of the public criticism aspects of it and really just maintain the kindness and the compassion that we have for each other. And that's real every day. And like, we talked in the first half of this, how Kyrie has now become the ambassador for the Mavericks and has become the spokesperson for the Mavericks. And that was the most like the best way you could have put that. And honestly, it was so refreshing to me to hear somebody from the Mavericks say, hey, can we like stop with the kicking the guy on the way out kind of deal? Because that's one of the most frustrating things for me is they had to figure out a way to justify it. So there are all these, well, the Mavericks thought that Luka got up to 270 and this and all that. And like, that was very refreshing from Kyrie.
Yeah, and I think we also have reached this annoying part of the news cycle where it's still an incredibly hot topic issue. Like, it's the biggest story in the NBA still, and it will be for the rest of the season. And now you're just getting like the regurgitated reports and like the aggregators who are like, oh, this was a quote a week and a half ago. Like, let me tweet this out or put this in my news story. And then the aggregators see that and they're like frame it as if it's a new quote. And then that goes viral. But it's just, yeah, I mean, they wanted to explain themselves. They clearly misread how hard this would hit the fan base, which is something I can't grasp how they misread that so badly.
But my only explanation I say in my head is so many people. I don't want to like even name names like outside the main two, but like there's so many people that haven't been in the NBA that long to like know the true impact of like a city with like, and I get Nico's like, you know, been Nike agent and all the stuff, but it's just not exactly the same as being like, you know, and you know, this is his first GM job. This is Patrick Dumont's first ownership, and he hasn't been owner very long of a sports franchise. There's some other people in some, you know, new roles where this is the first professional sports franchise that you like. So it's like, that's my only explanation of like how you could, but still like, it's not like an excuse though. Like you have to know, you have to at least have some, especially with a team that has like the only player that's played 21 seasons for one franchise and is the ultimate connection of a city to a, you know, a sports icon like it is with like Dirk and Dallas that is like just like one. So yeah, it's just, it's wild that they kind of didn't expect it. And I'd almost like kind of like understand it more if like they just kind of stood their grounds. Like, yeah, we kind of knew it was going to happen, but like in the long run, we think it'll win out. And
yeah,
like,
that would have been much better way to go about it.
Like it sucks, but it's like, at least like you kind of like weighed your options and put it all on the table. And you're like, actually, you know, we're going to take a big hit initially, but we think in the long run, it'll work out. But you can't come out and admit like, oh man, just didn't really see this. Like
that, and it's really surprising. Like Rick Welts says that they were surprised by it. It's like, really? You've been in the league forever. Like that one is really surprising to me that he came out and said that.
Like, imagine if the Warriors traded Steph, man.
Yeah, that really is what it would have been like before they went on their finals runs. It just doesn't make any sense that guy would say that. But I have some theories, but I'll just save it for another day. I've done theorizing.
But even like Rick, like what if Rick just Rick Welts didn't fully understand the connection Luka had with the city, and as far as him being a new hire, even though he had the example with Steph. He probably looked at the situation with Steph and Golden State, or Steph and San Francisco in the Bay, and it's like, which it probably is stronger than Dallas and Luka, but it's still like a similar type of like bond of star and city. But he probably looked at it in his way of like, all right, well, it's not Steph and the Bay, like that. He hasn't
won a title yet,
like and all that. So like, I don't know. There's just a lot of new faces in the room. I keep on going back in my mind to, this is a common thought I've had over the past few weeks is, man, there's been so much change. Like,
yeah,
and just so much change across the board of not just ownership, but like just in our time covering the Mavs in the past, I've just been like texting random people that's worked with the Mavs, from front office members down through the line, like of that has all left. I mean, I was joking with Bobby Carella that like, hey, why aren't you getting mentioned with all the people who've left too? Like, it's like,
well, you go St. Marshall, like she is going to come in and leave like in this era.
But I mean, you just go back, 3 or 4 years ago, and it's like, it's St. Marshall, it's Rick Carlisle, it's Luka, it's
Mark Cuban,
Dirk was at the end, it's Cuban, it's Donnie Nelson, it's it's just like across the board, like the decision makers. Haralabob came and went. Like there's just like there's so many different faces that were part of big decision makers. Talked about Scooter Tomlin. Like Scooter has been working in PR, which is a huge prominent role for Dallas, for the Mavs and stuff, and for any sports franchise. It's like all of these like huge roles. Casey Smith, like we could just keep on talking about longtime assistant coaches that have these relationships with players, all gone. So it's like there's been so much turnover, and I mean, you talk about effect on a culture. Turnover affects culture so much, and it's just it's a weird time, and that's just like on the faces that people like know. There's changes behind the scenes that people hardly know at all. That's also changed too. That just so much an organization has changed over the past in less than 5 years.
Since this already kind of feels like a blunt rotation, can I ask a question, a stoner question?
Yeah.
After all that,
was it that bad?
No. Just we're just like shooting the breeze.
Oh.
What are the Mavericks?
They're a figment of our imagination. No, that actually. That makes me think, if let's just say everything else was the exact same, the roster, everything was the same. The Mavs made the finals last year, but they still had, let's just say there's a world where like Rick's still the coach somehow, and Donnie Nelson is still here, and Mark Cuban's still the owner, and they made this trade. Do the fans view it differently if it's like, man, all these decision makers that have been in my life as a basketball fan forever have just told me that this was the move to make? Like, maybe they're right. Versus all these new people that. Why do I care what Patrick Dumont has to say? Patrick Dumont listed off names of NBA greats who worked hard. They didn't even mention Dirk, which is like the easiest get out of jail free card in the city of Dallas, Texas. And like, Nico Harrison, I have 3 years with you. Like, haven't been a part of my life in the way that some of these other guys have.
Was it more jarring that you felt a sense of, man, Nico Harrison knows what he's doing? Like, I think all of us have praised every move he's made, basically. And, the Porzingis one may not have been the greatest to lose Brunson, but then all of a sudden it worked. It ends up
no KP trade to
but it ends up working out in the end, right? Like they all ended up working out, and then all of a sudden it was just so jarring to see this move be done in that way. That I don't know, that part like almost shakes you awake, and then you go, oh my god, and then you get angry afterwards, like you have more energy behind it.
I'll say Nico's rep with me was so good that I immediately thought there's something more to the story than me too.
We all did.
That's still partially how I feel. And even if I was saying my theory earlier, but I'll just say it now. And like when they talk about how they didn't fully expect this blowback from the city, makes me think that maybe there was the frustration was a little bit more behind the scenes than we ever were led on to believe. Now I would still go to my grave saying it doesn't matter. The guy's 25 years old. He's a top 3 player in the world. Like you just make it work. But it makes me think like, maybe they thought they could say, hey, this happened. we told them this, and the fans are like, oh, okay, all right, I guess that makes sense.
That makes me wonder if they thought that the hate for Luka, like what there was their secret hate for Luka, the complaining to refs, the injuries, the conditioning, that fans thought more negatively about Luka than or the same level of negatively that they did. And I wonder if they misunderstood that part of it, because they can't say that.
I don't know if I would think that like they think a good portion of the fans like secretly hate Luka. I just think they didn't like, they thought it was going to be some backlash. They just misread how much.
Well, think about what rooms they're in. Think about the rooms Patrick Dumont has probably been in, right? Where like, is he
Same
talking
rooms
to
as us?
There's a ceiling.
Stop it.
Or wall.
Yeah, the ceilings are not plated with gold though.
The arena.
But think about the rooms they've been in with these like high up season ticket holders and people and stuff of like, man, what do you guys think about Luka? I don't know. He sure complains a lot, but like all that's all. He's hurt again. Oh, I don't know if he doesn't look like he's in real good condition. And it's just like those casual like high society type complaints about Luka. I mean, we've talked to people like that.
I mean,
I wonder if there's just more conversations that he's had about that, where he was like, oh, I think maybe secretly people will be relieved that Luka is gone.
I mean, I told you the day after the trade. I mean, we were kind of like doing the like, we did a show like who's happy besides like Nico basically. Yeah. And I kind of like did the like laughing like, oh, it's like the boomer that's been like, oh, this guy doesn't play defense and blah blah blah. And I told Nick there was somebody I talked to the day after the trade, kind of in that age range, that that contacted me and just said, I love this so much. Finally, we don't, and it's just like, but he was like one of the only few, and his whole thing was like, finally, we don't have to take up for all the complaining and all the different stuff. And I was like, all right, I guess there is a subset of fans out there that are
that Houston game, the first
that's
home game,
all they care about.
That Houston game, the protest game, I had 3 people come up to me, not boomers, 3 Mavs fans come up to me and be like, I like this trade. You're like, and talk about like why they liked it, and one of those reasons was that. I just wonder if like,
if I just wonder if 0.01%.
I know
but if that was 25% of the people Patrick Dumont and Nico have talked to, because they've been in rooms like that, then they think it's a bigger section of the fan base than it really was, right? It's all about your sample size.
Yeah. I think also too, maybe if I'm expanding on your point, maybe they heard some of the, real legitimate criticisms. I mean, we've gotten on the show, we've gotten in trouble for saying some of the same stuff that the front office said, but we've never ever advocated for him to get traded or moved. Like, I think maybe they heard some of the criticisms that people have, but those are just common criticisms anyone has with their best player on their team. Like this, look at any sport. Look at the way Cowboys fans talk about Dak or even Micah Parsons at times. Like these are all things that you see all the time. And maybe if we're going your route, Nick, maybe they saw that and like, oh, like, yeah, let's just tell them. Like, yeah, we didn't like that he complains to the refs, and they'll understand. They didn't realize it's like, yeah, we want him to not do that, but we want him on our team. Like, we love him.
Going back to Patrick Dumont, though, I think this is one of the biggest things we're going to see, which if you haven't listened to the episode with Ben Swanger from the D Magazine, he talks a lot about, he has this, I think it's dropping Thursday night?
Yeah, this one's Thursday.
Thursday night. So
yesterday's show.
Yeah, yesterday's show. On Friday, this issue comes out in the Business Magazine, all about sports business, but it's all about the sale, of Dumont and Cuban. You could buy that on D Magazine's website and stuff, but it's just a great reported story. And one of the things we talked about was that the relationship of Dumont and Cuban, and like how the different tenures could be, and how hands-on Cuban was, and how Cuban wanted to be kind of the face and involved in his favorite part of owning a franchise. And a lot of people complain about this, but honestly, this is how I would be if I was a billionaire and I bought a team. I'm definitely going to be in the room, all right, when decisions are made, or I'm going to be at the draft, or I'm going to be like trying to recruit free agents, all the stuff that Cuban was doing. And he was like, yeah, this really isn't Dumont. Like Cuban was taking it more from a basketball angle and like relishing and trying to get the big free agents and front row seats and like, going crazy and the entertainment and like really diving into like basketball fits and all this stuff. And Dumont's like more of like the business thing of like, hey, how can I build the arena with this like entertainment hub and like all this stuff in Dallas to make money? And I think maybe
to make this family like me.
And it's more of like, hey, how can we make it's more of like business, real estate. We've done this in other ventures in our life, and less about like players and fits and all that stuff. And this is why you get the empowerment that he gives to somebody like Nico and other people in his businesses, that he's like, hey, run this thing. Like, this is not my thing. Like, clearly with Shaq and his fitness here. And it's like, here you go, run the show, do this thing. And I think I'm curious to see in the long run over the years, go the differences in the tenures between the two of like, feels like we're just going to like see Dumont there at games at certain times. Of course, he did the interview with Brad. But it's like Nico's show to run. It's just a different type of vibe. And did that play into this type of scenario too, of like, we didn't have somebody as invested into the player and the players. And when you talk about the DeMont Adelson tenure in Dallas starting, what do we all hear about? Casinos. And it's all about the business side and everything, and less about the passion for like, man, I just want like an Ishbia that's like, I want to, do all these like, things and everything. So it's just a different type of, feel. And I'm curious to see how that plays out over the years.
Yeah. I vividly remember when the Cuban selling thing, and Cuban was, I think all things considered, Cuban's a good sports owner. But the thing is when you're that forward facing and the team struggles or they make a couple of wrong decisions, personnel decisions, like he's going to bear the brunt of the blame. And a lot of Mavs fans were fed up with him, but I always cautioned it was like, it could get a lot worse from an ownership perspective. A lot worse. You either get cheap owners who don't want to spend money, or you kind of get into a place like this where the owners just feel very disconnected from the fan base. Like you were saying, Isaac, it's more like a business than it is, and I thought Cuban, to a fault at times, would be too involved. I mean, that's just, you don't want your owner that involved in things. Like, let's look around sports. It doesn't work usually.
Isaac, you remember that draft where he looked around the room in the war room and he goes, if anyone hears, if Woj gets this pick, you're fired. And I find out it's you're fired. Like, your owner is in there doing that. Like,
it was the dentist. Yeah, it was the dentist draft.
It was.
But you also hear those stories of like, there were a few years there where it was getting a little rocky with Dirk. And like, man, is this really going to work out in the long run? This is pre-title. And it was like, all right, there's a chance that he could go somewhere. There's, Lakers are interested, Rockets are interested. There's these other teams. And Mark Cuban just straight up was just like, I'm not trading Dirk Nowitzki. Like, that's a relationship. That's an understanding of a bond between Dirk and the city, and like, and him, like the forward facing part of it, or the forward looking part of it, of like, dude, I'm confident that we can reach that mountaintop and win a title, and it's going to mean so much to this city with keeping this one guy here. And there's no way on earth I'm ever going to trade this guy. Dirk for Shaq. I mean, that was a realistic thing talked about. And I mean, it's Shaquille O'Neal, and this was pre-title Dirk.
Yeah.
And Mark Cuban's like, no, like,
yeah.
And that's a relationship and investment into Dirk that you have. And I don't know is Dumont going to have that in a couple years with a player or any players in his tenure, because he might be more hands off.
The wild thing that, like, I can imagine if this regime was in charge of that version of the Mavericks, them go, yeah, we just thought, Dirk, he's soft, like, I just don't think he's got the.
They would have made that trade so fast, right?
Yeah, like, Dirk for Shaq for sure.
Shaq dollar signs and all the stuff with Shaq, and it's like, Nico would have. Ascension, come on, he would have made that deal at a 7-Eleven. Like,
was Ascension around back then? When did Ascension start?
No.
Oh my gosh. You guys feel better?
Yeah, this is, I was going to say, this is probably my last time going like super in on the trade, to be honest with you.
That's what it was supposed to be.
2-hour-long video. That was kind of this happened. I mean, we'll talk about it again, obviously. Like, the playoffs will happen. The Lakers will be in it. It'll be a topic of conversation, but
it feels like every principal member has come out and talked about it at this point, right? We've heard from Nico, sort of. We've heard from Patrick Dumont in sit-down interviews. We've heard from like Adam Silver. We've heard from like every Kyrie. We've heard a little bit. Luka in his press conference.
Slightly. I'm going to start forward you Nick's text then about how many views Luka trade pods get. Because I'm like, hey, all right, we can't dive in this forever. And it's like, dude, it gets views.
Listen,
I'm like, Trump gets views too. All right, come on.
Listen, You did that whole thing about how everybody wants to move on, blah blah blah. We did an episode where it was the Mavs playoff hopes are crumbling, talking about the injuries and stuff like that. 17,000 views. We did all right. Everything's positive. Kyrie, star power, 6,000 views.
Oh man,
people care about.
We can't sell our soul though. We can't. I can't.
I mean, that's what's. If this team are healthy, I would be excited to watch them. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. I'm not saying anything about the trade, but I'm just saying like they're a good team and they would be fun to watch, and they are fun to watch right now. I mean, they're playing so hard, so that's what makes it a little bit easier, I guess. Like I was telling Nick before the All-Star break, if they had a 4-game losing streak, I mean, what going into the All-Star break, what on earth would be what would we be saying right now?
Who's coming back after the break?
It's such a double whammy though that AD just went out like in 30 minutes.
I know.
That was that. I mean, that we could have so much more copium right now if that didn't happen.
You think that's the number one thing that pissed off Nico the most of this at least last 3 weeks?
What do you think pissed off Nico more, the protest or Anthony Davis's injury in the first game?
Oh, come on. That's not even a question.
I don't
AD
think he cares
going
about the
down.
protest. Honestly, I don't.
I mean, we haven't really heard any. I don't even know. I mean, we can only say slightly now. Can you only say so many different iterations that Kyrie has been the best spokesperson for them?
Yeah, and I mean that's just
He has.
And Kyrie's been incredible since he came here. I mean, it's just he's been such an awesome leader for the team, and it's still crazy. If you'd have said all this 3 years ago, that the icing on top of the cake is like, oh, by the way, Kyrie is like the person you want with the microphone in front of his face every single night talking about this. You'd be like, all right, what is happening? Like we're in a different dimension.
Imagine telling somebody that when the Kyrie had that meme where he's like leaning on the press conference desk and he looks just exhausted and doesn't want to answer any questions or anything. He looks so sad. Imagine you telling, hey, he's going to be the spokesperson, the person you want to hear from the most, that'll say the right thing no matter what for the Dallas Mavericks of all teams.
Yeah,
just crazy.
What a spot. We really haven't heard from Dirk that much yet.
He made his statement.
He made his statement going to Luka's debut. We did the whole show on that basically.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like there will be a time he'll do like some, Dirk's, maybe he does his softball thing. I don't know if he's gonna do, if he does the Dirk baseball thing or the tennis thing this year. And
he's just in such. Well, I mean, what is there for him to say? He's in such a tough spot because he's so.
I know,
close.
but he's gonna get asked about it.
He's so close with Luka, and he's still a prominent member of the Mavs organization. Or at least like a face of it for the time being, at least.
Okay, let me throw out one more thing at the end here.
Of course.
If you got Aladdin's lamp and you get like one wish, and it's like, hey, you get one wish for these playoffs, for these upcoming playoffs. What is the one wish that for you personally that you would make?
Mavs win the finals.
Yeah, I was gonna say, okay, what are the limits
here? I mean, some Mavs fans are out there like, I don't even want them to win the finals because
and that's fair. That's fair.
Does the genie have the power to like reverse the trade or make Adam Silver rescind it in some way?
Don't be one of those people, Nick. Come on, don't be Chris Paul.
I mean,
I wish for 100 wishes first?
All right, let me. God, all right, let me take that off the board. Like, you can't wish for a Mavs title.
Okay. Let me just take it.
Mavs finals in 6 games.
I mean, for AD to be healthy, right? Like, okay, can the Mavs all be healthy? Can they be healthy going in the playoffs?
All right, let me throw one out there. I would wish that we get no Lakers Mavs playoff series.
You're thinking so small. I slightly was asking for. I was asking to rescind the trade. Slightly was like waiting for a finals.
It would be very difficult to log in. That would wake up every morning, and I mean, it would just be a barrage.
On today's show, how do the Mavericks defend Luka Doncic? We'll tell you on today's Locked On Mavs. Like,
there's no win,
my God,
right?
There
is no win.
People would be clipping stuff left and right and be like, "Look, these guys turn so fast, they hate it." And then it's like another side. It's like, dude, why don't you just go follow Luka if you're going to say the Luka, you're going to win? And it's like, dude, I don't even know what I'm talking about.
That is. I do like that these guys switch so fast. It's like, what are we supposed to say? It's like Max Christie had a 3. Darn. I mean, Max Christie had a good game. Ugh, man, that sucked. Like,
didn't see you root for Luka like you did for Christie. Like, what?
It's funny because we used to get stuff and say you guys should just change the podcast to Locked On Luka
every day.
That used to be a very common comment.
I've gotten more requests from people legitimately asking if we can do Locked On Luka now.
Yeah.
But I've had more of those, I think, than people have actually complained about the show.
I'm very interested to see because that LeBron has a fandom like that, a fan base where you could just do like hey, I'm a LeBron guy, like that's all I care about. I'm interested to see how much Luka, because Luka already had those guys, right? Just being a European superstar, like if you're Slovenian, if you're even a Spaniard, Luka's doing all this, like you're gonna rock with your guy. But I'm interested to see just how many people fully make the transition, because I think there will be a lot. I do think that there will be a lot of people who root for the Lakers now.
The thing is, it won't make a difference in the Lakers fan base.
No, their fan base is already so massive.
Because it's already the biggest one.
You guys, are y'all ready for the intergalactic war between?
It's not big enough.
No, LeBron stands versus Luka stands. Whenever it turns into like LeBron is holding Luka back, and it is like, I mean, full on battle.
We joked about that when we would toss around the idea of LeBron coming to the Mavs. We'd just be like, that would just be something that would be so interesting to see. I think about how LeBron and Russ stands. I mean, that was a thing.
Yeah, it was a thing.
That's true.
And that was just the Russ stands are fighting a losing battle.
If it goes bad, it'll be really ugly for them.
Yeah, I mean, but how can it go? Like the question is, how could it go bad? Like if they don't win, if they don't go far in the playoffs this year, the Lakers, is that crazy?
No,
Imagine next season. Well, this year they get
LeBron will be 41. Like it's just
this year they get a pass. Next year, all of a sudden they're in the play-in. They're in the play-in again. And you're like, okay.
Well, Nick, the reason why they vetoed this Rob Williams trade is some agent reached out and was like, "Hey,
oh no,
my guy wants to come to you this summer. So can you get out of this Rob Williams deal? It's going to take that first and some other things."
Williams.
Oh, yeah. What'd I say?
Rob Williams.
Oh, Rob. And they're like, "Oh, Mark Williams is back." Or, like whatever. We're going to fail this physical. And Mark's like,
my God,
dude, I just played like 30 minutes the night before. What are you talking about?
Oh my God. What if it's Dereck Lively? And what if it's
no, it's not.
No. Who's his agent?
It's so bizarre.
Who's his agent?
We talked to Rich Paul. He likes Dallas.
Who's his agent?
No.
Say who his agent is.
No, I mean that's
Clutch.
Makes me feel even more safe that he would stay here with AD.
I know.
Rich Paul's not going to do his guy AD like that. Like AD's still one of his guys.
No, Rich Paul played high school basketball with LeBron James.
Look, LeBron's going to be 41 years old. Like I would say there's a higher chance that LeBron's on the Lakers next year than Lively's on the Lakers.
Yeah, they've moved on so quick. The little story about LeBron noticed how quickly the Mavericks or the Lakers moved and tried to get a center for Luka Doncic when he had been asking them to use those assets to get something.
Come on. LeBron's got so much crap his way. I don't buy any of that stuff. You got him to trade for Russell Westbrook, right? That
I know, but to Slightly's point, like it would be less surprising if LeBron was off the Lakers.
If I were the Lakers, I'm like, hey, after the Russ fiasco, I'm sorry. Like we're revoking your GM.
Yeah.
GM doesn't get to make decisions anymore. I wish the Mavs could do that with Nico right now.
We'll let Lou GM take over for a little bit and just see what he's cooking.
They just send Russ GIFs back to him anytime he like shoots a message complaining. They're just like, here you go. But now Lakers are going to get like Miles Turner or somebody, or like, I don't know, like, oh, bam.
Well, it's got to be somebody that fits the money. That's why I mentioned Lively.
Miles Turner's interesting. That would be.
But yeah, I mean, how does it go bad? I think they get a pass this year, no matter what they do in the playoffs. Yeah. And next year, if there's like a big Luka injury at some point, which
or
I mean, God,
what if Father Time hits LeBron hard next year? Like the next year is the year. Then I just
don't believe that will happen ever.
Yeah.
Luka's going to be there for 2 all-time great like swan songs.
But I mean, the calf thing has been a problem forever. What if he misses 25 games to start the season?
Look, the real way that this would make sense for the Mavs and end up being like a trade you look back on historically and be like, wow, I can't believe that actually ended up working out, is something nobody wants to say out loud, because it's if Luka is injured. Like that's it. That's the only way. Well, and nobody wants to say it. Nobody wants that. Nobody is even like interested in even entertaining that idea. But that's literally it. I mean, if the Mavs win one ring, I don't think that you look at it and you're like, that ended up working.
Night of the trade on our reaction show, I said he either has to be Embiid or he has to be Andrew Luck for this to make sense for the Mavs.
Yeah,
that's right. Fair. Like Andrew Luck, where he just gets injured so much that he decides, you know what, all right, I'm 33. I've been fighting through all this. Not even 33, like 28, 29. He goes, we've tried. Like, all right, I ran out my contract here and I'm done.
Real Madrid's looking nice again.
Yeah, I miss back home. Like the NBA takes us so. I mean, I guess, but that ain't happening.
He already has said he's not going to play till like, oh, will you score 40,000 points? Like, I'm not going to play that long.
I mean, let's just assume
what's 5 years off of that.
Let's just assume that he's Luka Doncic over the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the way the cap goes up, what does that contract look like in 5 years?
Well, Nico Harrison said, I don't want that.
I know, but I'm saying after this next one, the Lakers will.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be into 70 million. Like whatever,
easily. I mean, we might see 100. We might see a year with 100 million.
Guys, we have to also count inflation into this. True. The money's not going to be worth it.
That's
a $100 million deal.
We're an hour into this pod. The next 30 minutes, we'll be going over inflation.
You see how much eggs cost?
The tariffs.
All right. That feels like a good place to cut it off.
What a random pod.
I know, an hour.
Guys,
Dallas, a city in turmoil.
All right, here's the thing.
What game was that?
Oh, that was from the ESPN game. That was from the ESPN game.
The first game?
The first game back.
If you listen to this pod all the way through,
shout out to you.
Leave us a comment that you made it. Just say, I made it.
And I want to make it very clear. If you're a fan, I stand with any decision you make.
I feel like you're subtweeting me right now.
No. I'm not subtweeting you. I'm just saying, like, I will support
this. That's not what I was going for.
That's just what I grew up with, and that's all of that. And
yeah,
just,
you do you.
Yeah, do you. Like, I don't. Me supporting the team is not moving on from the trade or doing X, Y, and Z.
I'm just gonna set this one out.
This is me as a young kid. I was a Lakers fan. I've been very open about this. That I was a Lakers fan. I was born in LA. That was my team growing up. I moved here to start covering them. I moved here and started covering the Mavs, and here I am with Mavs gear all over my room. Like, it happens, you know. You make decisions in life.
Yeah, Nick has been a Mavs fan for like once you reach the decade point or over a decade. It's like
that's it.
It's pretty difficult to question your commitment.
All right. Love you guys.
Go Mavs.
Guys, thanks so much. If you're listening all the way through, comment that you made it. Let us know. Follow the show in a bunch of different ways. Guys, thanks so much for listening to this long episode of Locked On Mavs.
I wonder how many clips are going to be pulled from this one.
Peace out. Boom.
Max Christie.